partners. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Jeff Young. I'm the Director for Franklin County Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Along with our partner and host here, Scott Torville, I'd like to invite you to kind of our kickoff briefing to the winter weather season. We always have kind of folded this in a little bit with some of our planning efforts. It's kind of evolved over the past decade. We always want to be as accessible, transparent, and kind of forward-thinking as we can be heading into the season, not knowing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as we work through the season what the environment is going to be for us and what challenges we're going to face. But this is a great opportunity for all of the entities, or at least the primary entities, to come together and kind of touch base as we kick off the season. Scott, would you like to say anything?
Thanks, Jeff. On behalf of the City of Columbus, Department of Public Service Director Kelly Scacco, welcome. Thank you all for being here today. As Mr. Young mentioned, fantastic event doing the outreach and education to the public on the winter weather preparedness. In addition to that, I would like to remind everyone and thank the folks from the Central Ohio American Public Works Association, the local chapter. A fantastic event going on as we speak right outside. We've invited all the communities from the Central Ohio area to come network with each other in regards to snow and ice techniques, snow and ice equipment. We actually have a plow rodeo going on right now. Each agency was invited to send their very best driver. They're out there competing right now on a very tough and challenging course for some local friendly bragging rights. So a great way to showcase not only the partnership between some of the folks that you see here at the table, but also all of the agencies in Central Ohio that do provide snow and ice control services for the entire Central Ohio community and all of our residents. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Young, and I think we're going to get going.
Thank you, Scott. This really started and is unique for Franklin County in that, roughly 2017, 2018, we had some significant snowfalls that impacted Central Ohio, primarily early in the morning. One specifically jumps up in my mind that, the nightmare of 4 inches of snow, falling at 5 to 6 a.m. Some of our entities are already starting work or are starting their events, for the day. At the same time, the sheriff is rolling through the snow emergency levels. And I remember, sitting stuck in traffic on I-270, along with all of our plows out on the interstate, thinking, there's got to be a better way to do this, or at least, let's talk about this a little bit. Got with Sheriff Baldwin, who, can't be here today. This is actually always an important event to him. He's fortunate that I think he got out on his flight. He does an honor flight detail several times a year, and it just happened to fall on the same day as the rodeo. So he can't be here, but he's got a great representative. So we got together, met with lots of our jurisdictions, lots of our stakeholders. Franklin County is very unique in the fact that we have 24/7 institutions. So the idea that we can just shut down Franklin County, is just not a reality. But so we got together, we kind of talked through all of the different impacts, and it's really about information sharing and adapting to all of the changing conditions out on the road and how we message that out, realizing that the public is going to do what they perceive they're going to do. And I'm kind of looking at the panel because they live with this and see this every year. And we keep trying to influence that a little bit. And I like to think that we do it in a positive way. So we'll keep going. Then, this year, I reached out to our partners at ODOT, asked them to give us a little bit of a talk, because, in 2022, many of us watched the national news and saw that I-95 along the East Coast had been basically shut down for a 40-mile stretch, trapping people overnight, through the hills between, basically Washington, D.C. and New York City as they worked through and that nightmare scenario. And one of the things that kind of evolves from that is, how do we adapt to changing conditions? How do we, make the public aware when they may have traveling challenges or roadways are closed? So, at this point, I would like to turn it over to Mike McNeil with ODOT, the Traffic Management Center, who can kind of walk you through a little bit of their capabilities, give you a little bit of background on how they look at things a little bit in the state view. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Like Jeff said, he kind of reached out to me, and I thought it was a good opportunity today to come out and talk about what I'll get into on wireless emergency alerts. So my name's Mike McNeil. I'm with Ohio Department of Transportation, and I oversee our traffic management center. So if you're ever looking at OGO, our traveler information website, or you see all the cameras on the news stations and things like that reporting morning traffic, all those cameras and live feeds come from our traffic management center, and we actively monitor incidents going on all around the state on a daily basis. So. One of the items that we've kind of adopted in the traffic management center piece of software, like Jeff said, we brought it in 2022, and it's basically wireless emergency alert software. So think of it very similar to like an Amber Alert, where you're getting a notification pushed to your phone. This would be for transportation related purposes. So events are created and managed internally in our ODOT Traffic Management Center. It is a partnership with the Ohio Turnpike and EMA, meaning that if we want to push one of these alerts for anything on the Turnpike, we can be in touch with them and do that, and we have done that. We developed a standard operating procedure for our TMC when I say TMC, Traffic Management Center, to operate off of. So we have standard messaging when we do push those, because they are text messages essentially to your phone, push notifications, and they'll go to all phones within a certain boundary that we draw. And we do monthly training internally at ODOT just to stay fresh with the software, so that when we do want to push one, we're familiar with what we're doing. Sorry, the text got jumbled here, but this is just a quick screenshot of ODOT's Traffic Management Center. In Columbus here, out of our central office just west of downtown. Like I said, it's a 24/7 operation, and we manage all live traffic incidents going on around the state for anything on interstates, state routes, or U.S. routes. On this slide here, basically what the title says is boundary and messaging. Because I just wanted to give you a screenshot here of like this is an actual wireless emergency alert that we pushed on the Turnpike a few years ago. If you remember the blizzard we had right before Christmas 2 years ago, I think it was, they had a 50-car pileup on the Turnpike, and so both directions were closed for an extended period of time. And so what we can do is, as you can see here in this image, we got in the software and we try and understand the limits of where the closure is and where traffic's being forced off on both directions, which exits. And then we try and take that boundary out even farther, so that motorists that are approaching that either stopped queue of traffic or which exit they're going to be forced off at, they know ahead of time. So hopefully it is an awareness to motorists on, to either exit the freeway earlier or just be aware of a closure that might be coming up. So this is a screenshot of actually what was pushed to like a mobile device. It comes across as a public safety message, crash on Ohio Turnpike at milepost 106, eastbound and westbound, crews working to clear the scene. Eastbound traffic being diverted at, exit 91 and westbound at 118. So it's kind of descriptive enough to hopefully inform motorists without giving them too long of a text that comes across. But essentially how it operates is once we put in the messaging like this and we draw our boundary, that goes to any cell phone within that boundary, whether it's a motorist or not. We try and draw it so it's fairly relative to the roadway, but it'll catch, it goes through the mobile service providers and it'll catch anyone in that boundary. The title here says past use cases, and these are just some examples. When we talk about wireless emergency alerts, and it pushing a notification to someone's cell phone, it's not something that we want to do every day or very frequently. We try and save it for the high profile use cases where an interstate or section of roadway is going to be closed for an extended period of time, meaning at least 4 hours or more, and it could impact heavy amount of, traffic volume and things like that. So these are 2 use cases that we did it on. This was 2 years ago, if you remember the bus crash on the east side of Columbus, where there were 6 fatalities in that, and we had 70 westbound closed for the good amount of a whole day. So in that case, we drew our boundary into Columbus because it was closed eastbound and westbound at the start. Drew that boundary into Columbus, took it up 270 up and down a little bit. So motorists, basically anyone that's trying to go 70 eastbound, we wanted to make aware of. And then we kind of drew the boundary all the way out to Buckeye Lake as well. So if you're coming westbound on 70 into town, we wanted to make those motorists aware that 70 is closed ahead. Without digital message signs and certain things like that out there trying to notify motorists, this is our one shot to do that. So that's kind of that example. And then on the previous one where I talked about the turnpike multi-fatal pile up, you can see that image right there that we utilize that for as well. So we have it at our fingertips to use. Like I said, we save it for the higher profile and longer extended closures that are going to be, a big deterrent on the transportation system. And so kind of like pretty much my last slide, I got 2 slides left. One thing I like to mention is, challenges, successes, and lessons learned from it. I'll start with challenges. When we're, and this is kind of a nice way of like bringing it to the group and kind of mentioning this information is when we receive report or see on camera, a major incident that might have just occurred on the interstate. Our first, before we look to institute a wireless emergency alert, one of the main things is like we try and gather as much details as we can for the incident. And we rely heavily on law enforcement to potentially provide some of that info, especially if we can't see it on camera. We might be able to make that more self-awareness decision if we do see it on camera, but receiving timely information and updated information during an event. And then another challenge is just kind of spreading the word on wireless emergency alerts to other agencies. So like I said, thanks to Jeff for inviting me today to kind of spread the word on this, because when we push these out, you don't get a text on your phone that says this message is from ODOT. It just says public safety alert, and it'll let you know of the information of where the closure exists and how it might impact your travel. Or if you're already stuck in the queue, hopefully providing you some information, as you sit there as a motorist and not knowing what's going on. So an event like this hopefully spreads the word to other agencies as well. Successes of the software, I mean, it's easy for us to use. We can push one out in a matter of like 10 minutes once we get the information, draw the boundary, and type up the messaging that we want to push out to motorists. It helps to get the word out quicker. When I mentioned that bus crash incident, we did notice that 70 traffic seemed to be lighter that afternoon when the incident happened at like 9 a.m. But then by like 4, when we're expecting our typical rush hour traffic on 70, it did seem to be lighter that day. So we hopefully can attribute to, the advanced notification and pushing that word out. And then, lessons learned kind of matches up with the challenges. A lot of questions up front that we're just trying to gain info on from ODOT. Will this be an extended closure? Any details as far as, injuries, fatalities, hazmat related, anything to help us kind of build that picture as far as, is this going to be a long-term closure for the day that we want to push this out and start notifying motorists of, or is it something that's going to get cleaned up in an hour or two and we'll refrain from pushing one out? And then my last slide here is DriveWise integration. So we actually, as part of that software as well, we have this other software called DriveWise integrated. And basically what it is for semi-trucks that have the in-cab devices, we can also push messaging that goes straight to those in-cab devices. So they would not only be getting a notification on their cell phone, but they could potentially get a notification on their in-cab screen as well if they're driving a commercial motor vehicle. And we might construct the messaging for the commercial motor vehicle to maybe be different than we pushed for the wireless emergency alert. Meaning, like if we have a certain detour, maybe we're working with our ODOT district and there's a certain detour we want commercial truck traffic to get off at, maybe 2 exits earlier than normal traffic, then we can construct the messaging within this platform to push directly to the trucking agency and to show up on there. So that's kind of all I have for it. One question we commonly get is, do you know when you push one of these out, do you know how many cell phones it goes to and the use case and feedback and things like that? There actually is no way to know the number of phones that it actually goes to when we push one of these out. It's just kind of like a one-time push to all phones within that geographical boundary. And so that hopefully answers that. But if there's any questions, I don't know if Jeff wants to take them now, or I'll be around for the whole meeting and we can catch up afterwards. So
Thanks, Michael. I think we'll do questions. If anybody has any questions, they're going to chase you down afterwards, and we'll give you an opportunity to answer one-on-one there. So unique capabilities, we talked this through a lot. It's ever expanding on how we communicate with the public, which makes it, from my perspective as an emergency management director, always interesting, because the one thing that is always changing is the public and how they hear, perceive, and trust information they're receiving, which is one of the reasons we talk about these collaborations. We're all familiar with Amber Alerts, which is really built on a federal system under the presidential authority to contact everybody in the country via cell phones in a certain period of time. It's been used for Amber Alerts, Blue Alerts, Gray Alerts. The National Weather Service uses it for tornado warnings, and different aspects. Most of the emergency management agencies within the county have the capability to push those. One of the things that we're very cognizant of, and we've talked with ODOT a little bit, is not wanting to duplicate or provide conflicting information from different sources. So that is one of our challenges as we go along. So anyway, the one question everybody wants to ask is, so what's our winter going to be like? We got a little bit of a taste on Sunday, Monday, kind of hey, the season is changing. This time last year when we were doing the rodeo, it was miserable, rainy, windy, very Sunday, Monday-like. Today it's a little more beautiful out, which is great for your event, but we all know it's changing. The one thing that is great about being an EMA director is I'm not a meteorologist, so nobody is hanging on what I say, but I keep hearing on the clickbait channels that December is going to be exceptionally cold. So do your yard work now, because you may not want to do it in December, or get your decorations up early in the season rather than procrastinating. So with that, I always want to invite our National Weather Service partners. Today I've got Logan Clark from National Weather Service Wilmington, who will touch a little bit on some of their stuff. It's interesting. I have a great respect, and we follow our broadcast meteorologists extensively. We've got a personal relationship with them, but when it comes to some of the forecasting products that then I can turn around and push to jurisdictions and partners or the public and post, I use a lot of the NWS products that they develop heading into storms. So Logan, I'm going to switch the slide around a little bit behind you as you talk here, so don't get distracted, but here you go.
All right, well, thank you. Yeah, weather this year compared to last year sounds like Ohio. You just never really know exactly what you're going to get. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Logan Clark. I am one of the meteorologists at the National Weather Service office in Wilmington, Ohio. Here to talk a little bit today about the winter weather outlook. So I want to thank Director Young and all of our great partners here at Franklin County EMA that we work very closely with for inviting the National Weather Service to attend this meeting today. Well, it hasn't been the record-breaking year for tornadoes that 2024 was, which I'm sure we can all agree that we're happy about. We still had our fair share of impactful weather events this season, or this year in general, including one of the better snowstorms that we did see back in January, followed by an Arctic outbreak that kept that snowpack around for weeks. But we're happy to be here today to help our partners across Franklin County and to be better prepared for whatever hazardous weather may come our way. Which in Ohio, we know it could be anything from major winter storms to flooding to severe weather. And this meeting is timely since next week, November 16th through the 22nd, will be recognized as Winter Weather Safety Week in Ohio. And as we begin to head into the cooler months, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what the winter weather will be like in Columbus, Ohio. So the official NOAA winter outlook does account for the La Nina advisory that is currently in effect. La Nina is considered the cool phase of the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO for short, due to the fact that there are cooler than normal water oceanic temperatures that are being observed in the eastern Pacific Ocean, which can indeed influence our weather pattern across the United States. Changes in those temperatures in the ocean waters can lead to pressure pattern shifts, can then result in wind pattern shifts, and that alters the precipitation patterns that we see as well. So for this winter, a weak La Nina is forecast to actually then persist through about February of 2026 before we return back to what's considered ENSO neutral conditions as those oceanic waters start to warm back up. So many past La Nina winters, and I should emphasize that this is a weak La Nina that is going to be in effect, but many past La Nina winters in Ohio have actually led to warmer than normal temperatures when averaged across the entire season. For this season, the Climate Prediction Center actually kind of indicates that there's really no strong temperature signals. So we're kind of looking at maybe better chances for just kind of your near normal, but it's really equal chances for above, near, and below normal temperatures. However, in regards to precipitation, the NOAA winter outlook does indicate that there is a better signal for above normal precipitation across the Ohio Valley. Now, you have to keep in mind that precipitation is just looked at as liquid equivalent. So it's not necessarily snow, not necessarily ice, but liquid equivalent. But obviously, we know as we get into the wintertime, if you are looking at above normal precipitation values, that could certainly help with nudging snow totals higher and even potentially ice totals as well. Recent weak La Nina winters, they've actually shown a trend for below average snowfall, however. For Central Ohio, usually in the winter time, we get about 25 to 30 inches. That's kind of considered our average. But I think it's important to stress, like many winters in Ohio, there's going to be that local variability with meteorological parameters such as the amount of moisture content that we have in the atmosphere. Of course, temperature profile is important for us to look at to assess whether or not the frozen precipitation falling is going to stay frozen in the form of snow, potentially melting into ice, or potentially into liquid rain. And of course, the storm tracks, right? Those are something you really have to wait until you get really just a few days out to determine what the major threat will be, whether it's going to be snow, ice, or perhaps even flooding and even severe weather, as we know we can get that during the winter months in Ohio. But just keep in mind that all it takes is really one or two really dynamic winter storms to have a huge influence on our seasonal snow totals. So we think it's important to stress to the citizens of Central Ohio and Franklin County to be prepared for the expected variability this winter. So when the National Weather Service sees the potential or likelihood for hazardous weather events, we'll issue winter weather advisories for those lower impact events and winter storm watches and warnings for usually the higher end events to alert the public and our partners of the potential risk. Typically, a winter weather advisory is going to be issued for more of your nuisance snow of a few inches or less, or perhaps when a glaze of ice develops, as we know that ice can really lead to travel disruptions, even if it's just a tiny amount. We would issue winter storm watches and warnings for those more significant weather events when we're expecting snow perhaps of 6 inches or greater with a storm, or a quarter of an inch of ice or greater as well, which would certainly be a threat to life and property. Now, ice storm warnings can also be issued when the primary impact is going to be just ice accumulations, again, typically of a quarter of an inch or greater. Also, a reminder from last year that our wind chill warning or our wind chill headlines will no longer exist this winter. Instead, wind chill headlines have actually been changed to cold weather headlines. So instead of a wind chill advisory, we would issue a cold weather advisory to focus on the cold temperature impacts regardless of the wind magnitude. Similarly, instead of a wind chill watch or warning, we would issue an extreme cold watch or an extreme cold warning, again, focusing on those cold temperatures. These headlines are going to be triggered from our forecasts of those apparent or feels like temperatures with minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit triggering a a cold weather advisory, and then minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, then triggering an extreme cold watch or warning, of course, depending on how far we are from the onset of those colder temperatures. So in addition to these products, we will continue to work and provide weather briefings and updates to our public safety partners, such as emergency managers, departments of transportation, when we see the risk of any weather events that are going to be impactful this winter season. So that's all I have for now. Holding questions off to the end, I assume. All right.
Thanks, Logan. So what I heard is we're in central Ohio, which means we're going to have some good days and some terrible days is the essential message there. Anything you can do to influence the feet of snow staying in Lake County and the NWS Cleveland area, and ice down in the greater Hamilton County, Cincinnati area would be much appreciated. We'll just take the boundary stuff here in central Ohio. So, as we talk about, what changing road conditions are like, and how we influence the public is, on the tip of the spear is really our law enforcement officers who are out in it, whether it's good weather, bad weather, on the front end of seeing it or responding to crashes, whether they be severe or, fender benders, the proverbial get off the roadway and exchange information, go home. But the snow emergency levels, which do make a headline and are important to informing the public, are ingrained in the authority of the sheriff. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Deputy Jim Gilbert.
Thank you. I see some of our snowplow drivers are in the back and have joined us from the rodeo. So one of them approached me asking if I wanted to potentially take a ride in one of the trucks and one of the rigs and go around the rodeo. But he said, I would need to take your cruiser out if that's going to happen so I can go out on the cruiser. So insurance doesn't allow us to do that. So for the one that asked me, I'm sorry. But we do offer ride-alongs, though. Just we want to make sure you're in the front seat, not the back seat. No laughs this morning. All right. Okay, cool. This is pretty boring, so I thought I'd try a joke or two. So on behalf of Sheriff Dallas Baldwin, I'm Chief Gilbert with the Frank County Sheriff's Office, and I'm just going to cover a couple things as it relates to the sheriff's authority to issue snow level emergencies, level 1, 2, and 3 here in Franklin County. So each county obviously has its own sheriff, and each county is designated by the sheriff to authorize a snow level emergency and what that means. So here in Franklin County, a snow level 1 emergency would mean that the roadways are hazardous with blowing and drifting snow, and the roads may be icy, and that's a level 1. We're asking you to use caution, give yourself extra time as you're getting ready to operate your vehicle on our roadways within Franklin County. If for any reason a level 2 is issued, that means the roadways are hazardous with blowing and drifting snow more than level 1, and that the roads are starting to get tougher to pass, and that we're asking you to only go out if it's necessary. On a level 2, we're asking you to also contact your employer to find out if it's necessary for you to come into work, and then you make that decision. If a level 3 is issued by the sheriff in Franklin County, then that would mean that we're asking for you to only be on the roadways if an emergency exists, and you would need to be able to provide what that emergency is, where you're heading to, and why you're out on the roadway, because at that point we're asking for everybody to stay off the roads to allow our roads to be plowed and the necessary equipment to get around, because the roads are so treacherous that it's for emergencies only that you should be out. Now, a level 3 does not get issued a whole lot. It's for the more serious weather events, and we're asking you, and you can be issued a citation and or even arrested, but keep in mind that we also are operating out on the roadways, and we're trying to get around as law enforcement as well. So Director Young pointed out that also prepare yourself. Normally when we see a level 1, we also put information out that we're asking you to exchange information. If you've been involved in a non-injury crash, your vehicle's not disabled, and you're not blocking the roadway, to exchange information and file a report online with that jurisdiction at a later time, because obviously we're responding to a lot of disabled vehicles and a lot of crashes because of the weather conditions for a level 1, 2, or 3. The last thing I'm going to share is the sheriff's decision on how to issue these levels is made in a collaborative effort between many jurisdictions and entities and input that he receives. The first thing he does is he contacts our radio room communications center, and he'll speak directly to a on-duty supervisor who has deputies and is out driving the roadways. He also contacts the Franklin County Engineer's Office, speaks directly to the engineer. He'll be in consultation with Director of EMA, Jeff Young, and then he'll also be in touch with our City of Columbus Public Utilities. So when he makes these decisions, this is not his sole decision. It's a decision that's made after he gathers all the necessary pertinent information, facts, predictions, time elements that are provided to him as to how quickly some of the roadways and major roadways and freeways are being cleared before he makes those decisions on how to issue those level alerts. So one of the last things I want to do is the Sheriff's Office here in Franklin County has an app. We're asking for the public to please download our app on all the platforms. You can just search for in the App Store for Franklin County Sheriff's Office app. We're pushing out this year an emphasis to download our app, and we push out those weather alerts on our app as well as all of our social media platforms. And I'll be available for questions afterwards. I got to turn it back over to Director Young. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So, it's amazing, and Chief Gilbert knows because his deputies are out there and he's out on patrol. A lot of the public doesn't realize how diverse our jurisdictions are. You're used to, as you drove here, is through the urban setting. You have suburban settings. One of the challenges, and many of the public who live in the city proper don't realize there are a fair amount of unincorporated areas out in the country that come with their own challenges. Blowing and drifting snow is a huge issue. It's always impactful to me when I hear we've had a snowplow slide off the road or get sideways and end up in one of the drainage culverts, which is a huge issue on the west side and the south side. We always kind of laugh that that Grove City, Jackson Township, Prairie Township area seems to receive some of the more impactful weather, whether it's coming from the west or the southwest. So with that, on behalf of the engineer's office, I would like to invite up Matt Balster. Did I pronounce that correctly, Matt? Good enough.
All right. On behalf of Franklin County Engineer Adam Fowler, my name is Matt Balster. I'm our Chief Maintenance Officer at the County Engineer's Office. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we have and what we offer at the Engineer's Office for snow and ice. Currently, we have 39 dump trucks set up that with plows, wetting system, and salt distribution on there, along with 5 other pickup trucks / 1-ton trucks that also can plow. We have 2 shifts. We run 2 shifts at the engineer's office. We go from midnight to noon and noon to midnight, 24/7. Any type of snow or ice event happens. With that, there's roughly 40 people on each shift between drivers, clerks, checkers, just administrative people in the office as well. We have 3 current locations that we work out of. 2 of ours is East Maintenance and West Maintenance facilities. And then we also utilize the City of New Albany. We have 3 trucks parked there as well. Our East Maintenance location is on Hendon Road in Groveport. There's 12 trucks technically that go out of there. 9 of them are out of the east spot and 3 of them out of the New Albany spot. East Maintenance has a salt barn that holds 5,500 tons of salt and 40,000 gallons of liquid. With our liquid, we have a combination of salt brine, and we also use what's called 80-20 geomelt, which is an agricultural mix with beet juice, basically, for layman's terms. Our West Maintenance has 14 trucks that plow out of it, with a little bigger salt barn that has 7,000 tons of salt it holds, and also has another 40,000 gallons of liquid there. Both outposts are also manufacturing salt brine 24/7 during our winter events. We have salt brine makers at both, so somebody is operating that to keep the salt brine up to date for us. At each one of these facilities as well, we have truck washes that are large enough to run our dump trucks through. So every shift, our trucks run through, get washed, get cleaned. They dump them first, wash them all, park them in the barn between shifts, top off the fluids, clean the windshields. That way the truck's ready to run for the next shift. Just a few facts that we have here. For last year alone, we used 7,500 tons, 7,507 to be exact. We used 148,645 gallons of salt brine was used on the roads. 37,276 gallons of geomelt. And our trucks drove 84,650 miles during the snow and ice events. We also sold a total of 1,903 tons of salt, 5,664 gallons of geomelt, and we sold 67,945 gallons of salt brine to 22 different agencies. We do partner with the City of Columbus on quite a bit of things here. They're one of our great partners where we pick up their roads, they pick up our roads, and it seems to be working really well. And we just hope in the future we can keep up with that great partnership with the City of Columbus. So, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So, the guy who, hosted us here today, and he gets to deal with a whole variety of stuff. It's always not lost on me, and I feel for him because I answer questions. Occasionally I get the phone calls and have to explain to somebody why their inability to get out of their driveway on their cul-de-sac is not the reason to have a level 2 snow emergency, which relieves them from going to work that day. So, we have those conversations within the City of Columbus. You get to kind of manage, the interstate or the arterials, the collectors, all the way down to the residential and the cul-de-sacs, and trying to get services through. One of the unique things, and I'm gonna pat him on the back a little bit and embarrass him. It also, and this goes to all of the collaboration among the agencies. Several years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, we had a housing crisis at one of our residential properties or multifamily properties where they had to move some people out across a holiday weekend or during the holiday break at the end of the year, and it was all residential streets. We had 4 or 5 inches of snow, was not even on anybody in the service sector's radar that was going to be an issue. But so I was able to call up Director Torvald and say, hey, got a question for you. Can we get the snow plowed off the streets around this location, because people are going to be coming and going. They're trying to get moving trucks in and out. We got services people, health people, health and human services people, all trying to manage this, and not a problem at all. Anything to serve the residents, right, Scott? With that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the City of Columbus.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I actually remember that exact incident. It was the Christmas storm from about 2022, and always happy to help. As Director Young mentioned, Columbus is a little bit unique. When it comes to snow and ice, we have over 4,600 lane miles of service territory that we have to address. For those of you who are looking for some perspective in that, drive from Columbus to Los Angeles and back, and then drive another 100 miles, and that's approximately 4,600 miles. So that's the size of the lift that we have for snow and ice control, snow and ice events. And as Jeff also mentioned, he really kind of teed me up well here. Columbus is very unique in that mileage is made up of all different types of roadways. We have, unique to us, we have the downtown urban core, the downtown business district. So all those streets in downtown Columbus, Front, High, Nationwide Spring, by the Arena District, by the Ohio State House, by City Hall. That's a downtown urban core that's very different than some of the neighborhood and the residential areas that we also have. In addition to that, we do service a number of roadways that are freeway-like, not nearly as many as our friends at ODOT, but the City of Columbus is responsible for snow and ice control on state routes within the incorporated area. So think State Route 315 and State Route 104, as well as portions of US 33, again, within the incorporated area. And then finally, some of the roadways that we do serve are similar to what Matt and our friends at the county serve, in that they are a little bit more rural and have a little bit more country feel. So again, that's one of the very unique challenges that we have here at the City of Columbus, is not only the size, 4,600 miles, but that our roadways are very diverse and make up all different types of streets that we have to maintain. Going into this season, we are fully ready to go. We are at about 98% staffed, so pretty much fully staffed. Our equipment is in great shape. As you've noticed with the joint rodeo here today, training has been going on and is pretty much fully complete. I am biased. I do hope that our driver wins. No pressure, Matt, but I do expect him to score well. And so from a staffing and equipment perspective, we are in great shape as we head into the season. As has been mentioned here today, collaboration has never been better, not only with our friends at the county EMA, our friends at the table, but all the communities that have joined us today. We do have a number of partnerships with neighboring communities very similar to the county. Those partnerships have really been, we've worked really hard over the last couple of years to improve efficiencies. And so not only with our friends at the county and ODOT, but a lot of the smaller surrounding communities, cities, townships, we have worked to figure out, hey, where are some locations where we're both sending trucks because the court boundary starts and stops, and how can we work together to serve you and plow your road, or how can you help us just, again, to make everyone better. Those partnerships also include, similar to the county, salt sharing, emergency material sharing agreements. So in the event one of our partners has an issue getting salt, either through supply or equipment breakdown, we've already set everything up to where we can help them out and make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind. And then again, we're serving the entire central Ohio area as best we can. Additional collaboration efforts with our auxiliary staff. That's a program that we started several years ago where we train non-CDL employees through other departments within the city of Columbus to drive pickup trucks, again, to serve those residential areas, those neighborhoods that we have to serve for those larger events, to get us out there serving the communities and directly in front of those driveways much quicker so that Jeff doesn't have to take that call about getting out of your driveway. With that, we also are entering our third year of our contractor program where we have solicited a handful of contractor trucks, again, largely geared towards helping us in those residential areas, those priority 2 and priority 3 streets for us. Finally, the last group of partners that I do want to highlight and try to get some messaging out to through our friends in the media, residents and community members. These are incredibly large trucks. They do not stop quickly. They do not turn very well. Please do not crowd the plow. And I would like to think that all of our partners here would echo those messages. It does not matter what color that plow is or who's driving it or what road is on it. Please, please, please stay back. Give it extra room to work. Let these hardworking men and women do their jobs and clear those streets. Take the extra 2 seconds, give them that space, let them work. For the other folks, the other residents in the room, be a good neighbor. Check on your neighbors, help the elderly shovel their driveway, make sure that everyone is safe and taken care of. And when you are doing that shoveling, please do not throw that snow in the street. That's just more snow that we have to clear or more snow that melts and causes ice and slick conditions. Do not park off the curb. Please park in your driveway if you can or up next to the curb just to create extra space for these large vehicles to get through. It takes all of us to respond to these snow and ice events, and I don't just mean the folks here or the folks out there driving at the table. I mean the entire community working together to make sure that we can restore normalcy as quickly as we can. So with that, again, I appreciate everyone being here today. I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff, and I think we got one more speaker.
We do. So, I'm going to ask, turn this over to Mike Lascola with AEP Ohio. While they are not directly involved with plowing snow as of yet, maybe. You never know, right? Never know what initiative is coming up. In today's world, our power resources are growing in probably daily life importance, or what we call is important to health and safety in our working environment. We always want to finish up with talking a little bit with our power resources. Obviously, sometimes a nice, dry, picturesque snow is not as problematic as the proverbial ice or, heavy wind or wind-driven snow, and then things that bring down tree limbs are problematic for them. In my previous life, I used to take a lot of phone calls of people wanting to know, how do you get a hold of AEP? Because I need them on my street right now because we're on a priority circuit. I can tell you right now, and this is a Jeff Young opinion, everybody's on some sort of a priority circuit. There are none that really are better than the others because in today's world, they all have some priority that they have to serve. And then I used to tell people that I can't tell you when they'll be here, but I can tell you that once they can be here safely, they will work until your power is restored. So with that, I'm going to let Mike touch base a little bit on AEP.
Thank you. You could do my speech if you wanted. So I just want to say thank you to Jeff and the folks at the Franklin County EMA for bringing us all together. This is a great event. I appreciate being here. And it's interesting how all of us interact with one another, because I want to thank all of you that are up here today and all of you that are in the audience that are plowing the streets, because by clearing the roads of snow and ice and other drivers, that really clears the way for our crews to get where they need to get to fix the power lines that may be down. So great interaction, great event for us to all be here today. So what does AEP Ohio do when severe weather hits? We have a team of meteorologists on staff, and they really help us understand what to expect, where the severe weather is going to be, what areas will be impacted most. And we have more than 1,000 line, tree, and support workers out there trying to restore power. And we operate out of 42 different service centers across the state. Our crews are preparing their trucks, their vehicles, and gathering the materials they need to respond and expedite service as much as possible. When we do experience power outages, like Director Young said, it's typically due to ice and wind. I mean, snow is an issue as well. I mean, snow, I think, impacts the roads, as does ice, but our equipment is designed to withstand a lot of severe weather. But when the ice buildup gets above 1/4 of an inch on our equipment, that's when we can really see more outages. You also understand that when wind blows, it blows trees hit power lines, and that causes outages as well. But when we do experience outages due to ice and wind, the first teams that get out there on the road for us are our assessors. And our assessors are really critical because they assess the damage. They radio back to our dispatchers to say, here's what equipment we need to get this job done. So all of you that work in the field understand that if you show up with the right crews, the right equipment, and the right materials, that really helps to expedite the repairs. You don't want to show up with a crew that doesn't have a pole or doesn't have a cross arm if that's what's needed on that particular job. And when we do get out there and send our crews out to start restoring power, it's really like a 4-step process. The first folks that get restored typically are the critical infrastructure folks like police departments, fire departments, first responders, hospitals. That's who we try to prioritize getting back in service first. That's critical so they can go on and do their jobs to help everybody else. Secondly, we try to focus on large groups of customers. The more customers we can get back, the sooner, the better. So we focus on the bigger jobs and try to get large groups of customers back. Then we go on down the line to smaller groups of customers like neighborhoods, circuit level customers. And like Jeff said, we keep on going until we get that last customer on. But please understand that one outage on a country road might take a little longer to restore than getting the large groups back. But that's what's really critical. The more customers we can get back, the better. Now, what can customers do to prepare for severe weather and potential power outages? Like Mike from ODOT said, I mean, communication is key. So one of the first things we want to recommend is that customers stay informed. You can get text alerts from us. You can go to aepohio.com/text alert or text aepohio.com/alerts. And you can follow us on social media, Facebook and X. Our group of communication specialists really do stay in touch with our line crews. They get social media updated as quickly as possible, so you can really follow us and know what's going on. Also, for customers with any specific medical needs, we recommend that they have a plan in case of any kind of extended outage. Have somebody checking in on them, have someplace they can go where they might have a better chance of having power and the resources they need. Customers that are on any type of medical equipment need to have a plan in case they have an extended outage. We also urge customers to prepare an emergency kit, all customers. When you said customers were out overnight on I-95, it just went through my head. They should have an emergency kit in their car, right? An emergency kit that includes warm clothing, blankets, water, having charged devices, any medicines you might need, food, water, flashlights, all those things, knowing where they are in case of an emergency or an outage, it's great to know. I remember when I was a kid running around looking for candles and flashlights in the house. We weren't prepared as we should have been. And I'll tell you, for customers who plan to use any other means for lighting or for heat, like generators, please follow manufacturers' recommendations. We've all heard of horror stories of people running generators inside their garage or inside the house. Please, safety is number one. And that's how I want to end my session here today. We want to make sure that everybody's safe. So if you come across downed power lines, and this is for the public as well as first responders, please make sure that you always assume that a downed power line is energized. Stay away from any downed power lines and keep others away. Safety first. Call us or call 911. We'll get out there as soon as we can. But keeping people clear of any downed power lines is the job of the first people who arrive on the job. And I would just like to say we're prepared. We have experienced folks out there working, and we recommend customers stay prepared as well. I want to leave you with one phone number if you need to call us One way to get a hold of us is through our call center. It's 800-672-2231. Thanks for having AEP out here, and thanks to everyone else who's on the panel today.
All right, thank you, Mike. Well, I'm not going to continue to repeat this message, other than thank you, panel, for being here. Thank you, attendees. You know, the one thing I can say is, you know, this is the group that kind of is communicating with each other, both as severe weather is occurring, and then as we work through the recovery process to return to normal. So, you know, I think it's not a great heavy lift, or my job is easy when it comes to collaborating or getting Central Ohio to collaborate, because it's not just the six panelists I've got up here who collaborate routinely in this event, but it's all 42 jurisdictions, and they're representative of that. I think we've got representatives from multiple jurisdictions as part of the rodeo. You know, so I'm going to finish up. I just want to thank our plow drivers. What you do is not easy. I'm aware of that. It's a craft, and I think about you routinely. So be safe this season. Hopefully it's a quiet one for all of us, even though we know that Central Ohio will not stay quiet all season long. With that, thank you very much.